couple of weeks ago, he was crowned the 2023 ASCS National Tour champion. He's originally out of Liberal, Kansas, now calling Lincoln, Nebraska home. Jason Martin, and we discuss his amazing 2023 season, the upcoming short track nationals at Texarkana 67 Speedway in Arkansas, and more. That's coming up next on the Dave's Home Supply Getting Up to Speed podcast after these messages.
Dave's Home Supply specializes in cabinets, flooring, and countertops. Visit their website at daveshomesupply.com to look at products, services, financing, and even a free estimate. Are you looking for bookkeeping, payroll, or income tax services? Then check out the folks at For You Simple Bookkeeping. They are a licensed tax preparer throughout the entire United States. For more information, click on the link in the description. Newly minted American Sprint Car Series National Tour champion, originally from Liberal, Kansas, now calling Lincoln, Nebraska home, piloting the number 36 BM Motorsports entry, Jason Martin. Jason, it's great to have you here, and first of all, congratulations on winning the ASCS National Tour Championship. That is no doubt a remarkable feat.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that, and thanks for having us on.
I mean, you look at the names of the drivers that have won the championship: Sam Haferteep Jr., Blake Hahn, Jason Johnson, Wayne Johnson, Shane Stewart, Gary Wright. Simply amazing and really cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, just you go back to the beginning, Gary Lee Meyer and Gary Wright were probably some of the guys that I looked up to the most whenever I was a kid, just getting racing or even before I was driving myself. So getting to race with those guys and race with them, then let them beat you up as a young kid, and you learn, how to race and how to tailor your craft how you want to be, and then eventually, obviously, getting to race with them and beating them. Now getting to have your name on that list with those drivers is pretty cool.
And I was just browsing through. You're the first driver native of the state of Kansas since Gary Lee Meyer won the inaugural ASCS National Tour Championship in 1992. So good to see the Sunflower State represented again.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, but that's pretty cool. Kansas is probably not well known for very many racers, but there's a ton of history. There's a ton of really good racers that's come from the Kansas area. So I'm proud to be from there as well.
Oh, no doubt. Gary Lee Meyer, what was it, J.D. Johnson and C.J. Johnson, some regulars with the NCRA days, and obviously Tony Bruce Jr. So also from where you're from Liberal on the western side of the state.
Yeah, Tony and I grew up together.
Well, let's talk about this season. Accumulated 12 wins on the year, 23 podiums, 27 top fives, 33 top tens, and 38 starts, and no doubt a remarkable journey for you and your team. You guys ran some ASCS national stuff, obviously, some ASCS regional stuff, and also got the job done with the Malvern Bank Series in the Nebraska-Iowa area.
Yeah, we've tried to focus our whole season on the national tour, and whenever there was some off weekends where we weren't racing, we wanted to obviously stay fresh and stay racing, so we would either run a different car and a different engine package that, probably wasn't our national tour quality stuff, and we'd go run some of the local shows to try to, obviously they don't pay very well to be spending a bunch of money on high dollar motors. So we just wanted to support a lot of the racing around Nebraska as well. They started that new Malvern Bank Series, and since I-80 Speedway closed, they took and created a traveling series, and so we tried to support that as much as we could. And we're fortunate to have some pretty good luck and win some races and do well with that.
Yeah, I mean, and they've got a decent crop of drivers that run, Joey Danley and Stuart Snyder, among some of the guys that are regulars with that group. Yeah,
there's actually, I was talking to Stu Snyder about that the other day. He mentioned, he's like, it's pretty cool that you won the ASCS National Championship. Tyler Druty, he's been traveling all over the country racing 305s. He won the IMCA 305 National Championship, and Stu Snyder obviously won the Malvern Bank points championship. So the three of us are actually pretty good friends, and all three of us were able to accomplish what we did this year. So it's pretty neat to say that there's some winning drivers that do come from that state.
Well, and that's great that you bring up Tyler Drucke, because I think some people sleep on the quote unquote 305s, the race savers, like it's a subpar class, and I really don't see it that way, especially in like Eagle Raceway. I think is probably one of the toughest regular weekly programs when it comes to sprint car racing, because they've got so many good guys that race there, and it's home of the Race Saver Nationals, and you've had some had a stint there. Jeremy Campbell. I mean, we're talking about guys that are no slouches at all
Yeah.
that venture with that deal.
Yeah, it's just one of those deals where, it's ultra competitive there at Eagle for sure. There's always 30, 35 cars every night. And the way the IMCA format is, you have to get up on the wheel and start from 12th if you're a fast car every night. You got to obviously start 12th and go forward. So it makes good racers out of everybody. And yeah, I mean, I've ran some 305 stuff here in the past, and it was not simply because you're, the washed up thing is going around right now, obviously, with the social media stuff. It's not like you're washed up. It's just that's what you have to race. In Nebraska, there wasn't a lot of 360 stuff. There was only 6 or 8 nights a year that you could race a 360 within 250 miles unless you went to Knoxville. And so guys just started racing the 305s because they got car owners or sponsors or, this is what they're passionate about. So they started racing that. So, and we did the same thing. We didn't have a lot of racing anywhere else to go and do unless we went out on a tour and traveled like this. And at the time I had a career and, I was trying to do the right thing and work and put the hours in there and leave on Friday and go race. So I don't have that anymore, and we can make racing a career.
Well, and you were telling me off the air that you're basically in a partnership. You're co-owner of the BM Motorsports number 36. How did that kind of come about being?
Yeah, I mean, DJ's from Wichita, Kansas. He owns Bobby Electric. He's obviously the major supporter, sponsor on the race car, and takes a huge financial load off of my shoulders to make sure that we have everything we need. And obviously, he takes care of the motors and the pieces of the puzzle to make it successful. He just came to me quite a few years ago and said he wanted to get into racing, and his business was flourishing, and he wanted to, he had a little bit of extra income to put into it because he's passionate about it, and that's what he wanted to do. And we've really grown this team to be a pretty, we call it, powerful team. I feel like we can compete at the highest level with the equipment that we have, and we're pretty proud of what we've accomplished with it. So.
Well, and something that's really cool when you kind of think about it is you talked about Tyler Drucke, yourself, Stuart Snyder, and Nebraska's kind of starting to be, Lincoln specifically, really starting to become a hub of some drivers that have quote unquote relocated there or from there that are really fast. Don Drought Jr., Jake Buback, originally from Colorado, now lives in the Lincoln area. Jack Dover from the Lincoln area, and now you. How has the adjustment been for you from being liberal Kansas now to Lincoln, Nebraska, when you guys decided to make that move a few years back?
My deal is kind of a little similar to like Jake Buback's. We both transfer or moved for a career. We needed to have, obviously, starting families or growing families. You had to have a career and have a sustainable job. And so both of us actually went to work at Speedway. He went obviously after I left there, but to Speedway Motors, and that's it's a career. You want to go there, you want to work in racing, you want to be surrounded by racing people and so on and so forth. But that's why you've seen a few guys go there. But it's just one of them things where things change and you got to make a decision and go on down the road. But as far as being in Lincoln, honestly, if it was up to me and we didn't have kids, that we had moved from Southwest Kansas to Nebraska at a pretty young age and made Lincoln their home, we probably would have just packed our bags and moved probably somewhere south where it's obviously warmer and a little closer to the racing.
Sure.
I'm actually hanging out at my buddy Ty Williams' house down in Oklahoma City right now, just waiting to go down to Texarkana for the week. And it's 75 degrees and really nice, and it's only going to be a 4-hour drive, where if I was actually at home, it's going to be a 12 or 14-hour drive, and so it's one of those deals. If you're wanting to race a little bit more, we probably should have picked Oklahoma or Tulsa or Oklahoma City to be more of a central hub for the ASCS deal. But like I said, our kids are now their home is Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's where we're going to stay until they decide they want to go somewhere else.
Well, you mentioned the upcoming short track nationals at Texarkana, new venue for that prestigious event, and it was a little wet not that long ago, and rescheduled for this upcoming weekend. So they literally drained the swamp, it looked like.
Yeah, I hope they got it drained. It's supposed to be raining a lot. I know here in Oklahoma City we're supposed to be getting like 3 to 5 inches of rain tonight and all through tomorrow, and I'm sure hoping that it misses down there and the weather forecast changes and it's not as wet as it was last time we tried to go there. But we'll have to see what the week brings.
No doubt. Something that you and I discussed before we started this conversation and hit the record button, but what was it, 2006 or so? I remember that was one of the first times that I saw you. You were full-time World of Outlaw back then, and what was really cool about you was you had the NOS Energy Drink sponsorship before a lot of these drivers had accumulated that. And I remember what was really cool about that is that you, obviously sporting NOS, it was something that you could get in the local grocery store where I lived in the Pacific Northwest. So there was a really kind of cool connection there.
Yeah. There was a point there that they went from not really having any exposure, and not to my credit, but they really expanded their reach right around that time, and they got into Walmarts and grocery stores all over the country. They really expanded, and that's whenever we were fortunate enough to pick them up as a sponsor, and had a great relationship there for a couple of years until they got purchased by another major company, and at that time they didn't think racing was where they wanted to spend their money, but it didn't take very long and they're right back in it. Thankfully, they've done a huge thing for the sport. There's a lot of race teams and series, obviously, they're supported and sponsored by NOS Energy Drink. So I'm proud to be able to say that we were in the beginning of that.
Well, and your time on the road with the World of Outlaws, in which that those couple of seasons that you raced full time, has that helped you as far as coming back to some of these racetracks that perhaps you hadn't been there since your stint with the World of Outlaws, or it had been a long time since you'd been at some of these racetracks?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the racetracks, I don't know that we've raced. I don't know that the racetracks are a thing, but it's not just the name on the track. It's the different surfaces that you encountered throughout the season. With Outlaws, you race in California, you race in New York, you race in Florida. There's just different dirt all over the country. Skagit's got different dirt. Obviously, everybody's got different dirt and different shapes, and you really learn to adapt to different driving styles, where there's a lot of guys that they're either guys that run the cushion really good, or they run the bottom, or the dry slick guys, and you have to adapt and be, you might not be the best, and like I don't feel like I'm the best whenever it's wet and rough and heavy, just because I think I'm getting old and it hurts to bust your ass a little bit. So yeah. I'm kind of calmed down a little bit, but whenever it gets dry slick or there's little patchy spots of moisture, that's whenever I feel like I excel. Well, I learned going on the road, you learned how to race, with, Donnie Schatz and Joey Saldana and Darren Pittman and Craig Delansky. You raced at a really high level with those guys, and you learned how to adapt to the different surfaces. So, I mean, that was a huge learning experience for me. I was really, really young, 20 years old, which isn't really young today for racers, but I was young, and it was an opportunity of a lifetime to go out there and race on the road. We didn't have hardly enough budget to get to the next racetrack, but we tried to make it work, and we knew that we needed to learn and just get that experience for the future if I wanted to continue doing this for the rest of my career. So that was a great time in my life.
And it was really cool when you think about it in retrospect too, is that, the first year that I remember you being full-time was the split year, 2006, but also your friend Tony Bruce Jr. went on the road as well. along with, and it gave a bunch of you guys great exposure to a lot of new racetracks and different sort of competition too.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously there gets to be what I would say like a monopoly of really high profile drivers, and whenever obviously there's some stuff going on right now with the high limit series and the All Stars and the Outlaws. Now you don't really know what's going to happen with that deal. There might be some guys jumping ship and going and running other stuff, and it gives other guys opportunities. You look throughout the whole thing. Look at Brent Marks. You know, there was a time where they didn't have a lot of race cars, and Brent Marks went out on the road and got his butt kicked. He did, and he'll be the first to admit it. He didn't do real well, and then he goes back home and learned a lot of life lessons and how he wanted to shape his race team. And look at him now; he's the winningest money racer last year. So it's pretty cool that everybody gets that opportunity at some point.
No doubt. At one point in time, we all got our tails handed to us. You know,
it could happen tomorrow. I mean, you know, you just never know. You go to the racetrack with your best foot forward, and you might get whipped one night. You got to keep going the next.
Well, and something that I'm kind of picking up on is that ASCS has really got a great swing of momentum. I think this year it seemed like things put it in a really good upward trajectory in a great direction. The races were very enjoyable to watch, and they've got a group of good guys competing with the series. I think that the future for ASCS is looking pretty bright. While you know, you mentioned for the 410 world, things are a little murky right now. But for 360 racing with ASCS, things seem to be going in a good direction.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't give Terry Maddox and his whole staff enough credit. There's been obviously a lot of talk and a lot of scuttlebutt about it's not Emmett, it's not the ASCS of the old, but Terry's done everything that he can do, and every time he's ever said he's going to do something, he's done it. You know, we get paid, we do what we got to do to get down the road, and he tries to run the shows as efficiently as possible and not be there until 2-3 o'clock in the morning some nights, you know. And he does a really good job and trying to promote the races. Obviously he has a hard time getting races at some point. Racetracks, you know, signing on with him to have races, so he takes over the promoter side of it and takes, you know, puts his neck in the noose and says, I'm going to go out on a limb, and so hopefully we can at least have a race and make some money to go on down the road for everybody. So like I said, Terry's done a really good job. Yeah, there's a lot of turnover everywhere. You know, there's next year, there's probably going to be a few guys that you might see step out of the 410s a little bit and come back to race the 360s, or you might see guys that have been not racing a lot and start showing up a little bit more. And, you know, so it's a really good series, and guys want to support it. It pays well. I think they're going to try to get their schedule back up to the 40, 50 races again. You know, if we can not have rainouts or over tire shortages and all that stuff. So it's going to be a really good year, and we're looking forward to trying to get all of our ducks in a row to do this again.
Well, and that was something that I was just about to hit on. Is this year, man, rainouts in the spring was just detrimental to the early part of the season. But then once it got going, it went well. And of course, yeah, tire shortages have been a major issue the last few years, and you know, we just hope that all of that is behind. Obviously, the weather's the weather, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that you know, you need to race in the warmer climates early if you want to get racing. So Terry's made the move to where he's going to try to get us going in Arizona in early January, and hopefully we can get us, you know, a couple 2 or 3 weeks there. And assuming that he's probably going to go south right after that, whether it's, you know, the Houston area or somewhere down Louisiana, and hopefully try to get some racing in before middle of March and April when the rains start coming, and, you know, probably be a little thin in races around then, I would assume, just because obviously it rains tough to race around. But
sure,
yeah, he'll have races, and it'll be a good year, I'm sure.
And then I think you just kind of answered this question just a moment ago, but plan is to run the full national tour schedule for 2024. Are you gonna try and maybe hit some other stuff when that series isn't going on?
Yeah, we're getting geared up. We got Don Ott Racing Engines is one of our huge supporters, and we got a 410 that we've had on order. Obviously, supplies and parts have been hard to come by, and we've kind of scrapped up enough money to get us a 410 just so we can have something in the trailer to go race a few races here and there, just to try to elevate our game, just to make sure that we're racing at a higher level all the time, and hopefully create a little bit of cash flow as well. But yeah, I mean, our goal is to go race the ASCS National Tour. There's a lot of things that are up in the air right now. Obviously, money's expensive, or the racing's expensive, and money's not always laying around to be able to do what we need to do. So we're kind of on a sponsor hunt right now to try to help get us some diesel fuel and tires and that kind of stuff to get us down the road. I'm looking to add a crew guy. It's just getting to be for racing 30 races. It's not too bad for me to do everything myself. I got one guy that this year, he doesn't live anywhere close to me, and he would drive to meet me as we were going down the road. And so I did everything at home by myself. So I got to get a crew guy that's with me all the time, that I can, really try to take this team to the next level, where we got guys that are eating and sleeping and breathing this race team all day long. And that's, I think that's our next step that we need. And that obviously takes a little bit of funding, and we got to figure out, how we can make it all work. But that's the plan. If we say we're going to do it, we're going to try to do it.
Awesome. And for updated team news, race results or race summaries of the weekend, or folks want to get any sort of apparel, what's a good location? Is there a website or a team page that you guys have that you operate?
Yeah, you can check us out on JasonMartinMotorsports.com. Obviously, Facebook is probably one of the most popular places. Just look up Jason Martin Motorsports and follow us on there, and there's merchandise and apparel on there, and you can check up with the latest news and see what's happening and see how things are going to start out for next year.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned some individuals that obviously you're business partner with BM Motorsports, but and you're more than welcome to thank them again. Any sponsors or marketing partners additionally that you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, money's a huge part of making these things go up and down the road. We've been fortunate to win some races and be able to kind of carry it a little bit, but it still takes a lot. Mike Rezak with Rezak Concrete is actually a guy that I work for whenever I go home. I do a bunch of dirt work and stuff for him, and he helps us a ton with diesel fuel getting up and down the road whenever we need it. So that's huge support, and we really appreciate that. Obviously, DJ Bobby and Bobby Electric, they are our biggest supporters. But Trucks Plus in Omaha, he's actually an old car owner of mine, and he's just stayed on board to always be there supporting me whenever I need something. Blaine Peterson Auto over in Iowa, he owns my midget that we run at the Chili Bowl, and he helps us out with the sprint car stuff. There's always little product sponsors, SBS Shocks, Pro Shocks, Sandra Engineering, obviously Don Ott Racing Engines have been a huge supporter of ours to get us the wins that we've had. And, there's all kinds of little product sponsors. They help us, with parts to get us up and down the road. Willwood Brakes and Rod and Supply, and like I said, Sandra Engineering, Eagle Chassis, which is no longer anymore. We're going to stick with the Brian Cheney next year and get a couple new cars from him. But yeah, there's tons of people that help us get up and down the road.
Well, awesome. It's been great catching up with you, and we'll definitely stay in touch and see what 2024 has in store for you. And yeah, always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Well, that is going to do it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button on whatever platform you found this interview at. It really helps us grow the channel, and we greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, we'll be back with more content and interviews in the future. Be sure and have a great evening or a great rest of your day, whatever time you're listening.